Hello there, deckhands. Let's get in the mood for some non-nautical hullabaloo. Get Hype is back once more. Welcome, viewers and loyal subscribers, to our penultimate episode. Before you close the video today, be sure to check out the fan site links down in the description. Today I'm going to be talking about the backbone of the RPG, a formula which Fallout 4 has changed a little bit, and that's character building. One of the first things you'll do in any Bethesda game is determine some of your character's attributes and specialties. In that respect, Fallout 4 isn't going to be any different. But today we'll examine the workings of the new system and how I feel about building, and next week, for our last episode, I'll share what my first build for the game will be. If you get a chance this week, and I know a lot of you are way ahead of me, try outlining a build and share it with us next week. So let's dig into this. As with previous games, we begin Fallout 4 with a certain number of points to distribute to our special attributes. That number has varied from game to game, and in this installment we'll have a total of 28 points. One initial point in each characteristic and 21 more to spread how we would like. As in previous games, your choices in special will have some gameplay impact and determine what perks you have access to. In past games, you would also manage skill points, but in Fallout 4, it's just special and perks. So with that established, let me describe my perspective on character building. If you're familiar with the work on the Skyrim blog, or Tamriel Vault as it's now called, this won't need much explanation, but if you're not, all you have to understand is that this is an extension of the gaming hobby, and while I have a lot of fun with it, it's not for everybody. A huge part of the fun of character building is sharing those builds with other players who can then take them and make the build their own. So this process has its end goal toward making a comprehensive, shareable build like you might find over there. Most builds start out as broad concepts. In fact, I bet that's how most builders do start. You think to yourself, well, I'd like to craft an agent type character. Smooth talking, skilled with handguns and maybe unarmed combat, and with little to no armor. Or, I want to play a cold, calculating sniper with thorough pre-war training and technology. So these concepts give you the basis for two parts of your build, the essential skills and the backstory. So let's get backstory out of the way first. I know a lot of builders for whom backstory is completely unimportant. It's definitely not the most important thing, and there are some good reasons for leaving it out. It's fair to just let the player work out their own backstory. But I really like forming a loosely applicable background that helps reinforce the roleplay of the build, so I always include one. And maybe it'll give players ideas for their own backstories, or maybe they'll ignore it completely and come up with their own. Both ways are totally valid. For me, I would take that initial concept and just flesh it out a little bit. If you want to share it with somebody, be sure to engage the reader. So avoid cliche elements like, the Enclave killed my parents and now I want revenge. In fact, it's rarely if ever necessary to talk about your character's childhood. That agent character we talked about, for example. In Fallout 4, we can suppose that he worked in military intelligence, carrying out undercover assignments overseas until the resource wars hit, and American interests withdrew. So with an honorable discharge, he settled down, met a wife, had a kid, only to lose it all in the flurry of the Great War. When he wakes, all he has to rely on are his wits and his prior training. With that, you've done enough to justify the character's talents and open them to develop in almost any moral direction. Now going back to the original concept, let's extract the character's main skills. We said we wanted a smooth talker, so naturally, we'll have high charisma. To enhance our stealth and skill with handguns, we'll want a solid agility. We only need 1 point in strength to access a perk dedicated to unarmed, but we'll go for 1 more point just to show that our body is used to the abuse of close combat. And a balance between intelligence and perception and a touch of luck will reflect our training as a covert agent. So this is the skeleton of our agent character. He should turn out pretty deadly with a pistol in his hands, but his low endurance and light armor will mean that we'll have to play smart to keep him alive. Speaking of pistols and armor, gear is the next big thing to nail down for a build. For some people, that's as general as saying, use light armor and pistols. For a really characterful build though, we need to be more specific than that. So naturally we'll start off with just the vault jumpsuit, but we'll want to slap some light armor over that as quickly as we can. We can also probably count on getting a pistol as one of our first weapons, which is great. Now since we know almost nothing about the armor and weapons in Fallout right now, we can't be as in-depth as I'd like. But ideally, you'll be discovering what gear suits your character best as you play them. So while I'm playing, I'll be hunting for a pistol that really suits this agent personality. Probably a semi-automatic with a silencer or suppressor on it, and I'll also be experimenting with clothes and armor. A nice suit or a tux would match the classic look, provided I can stay alive while wearing it. The other thing you'll develop while you're playing is the essential perks for your character. Fallout 4 isn't going to tell you when to stop, so you have to get a feel for the character yourself and know when you've got all the skills and abilities to make them complete. In Skyrim, most characters rounded out between level 40 and 50. Fallout 4 seems likely to have a higher limit, maybe 70 to 80 or maybe even higher. You just want to avoid watering the character down by taking too many perks or irrelevant perks. Some points along the way you can spend to increase your special and unlock new perks. Make a note of those too, as well as when you take them. You'll gather all of that information together to make a sort of roadmap of the ideal way to complete this character. The last and perhaps most important thing to work out while you're playing is the playstyle of the character. What tactics work uniquely well for this agent that wouldn't work for another pistol-wielding character? What's his approach to combat and survival? How can you combine his perks and abilities to make totally new effects or boost your effectiveness? There'll naturally be some overlap between character types, but even characters with the same general gear and similar stats can play very differently, so take note of those differences. The final step in mapping out this character for other players will be to offer suggestions on how to roleplay them. This will usually tie into the backstory. Is this character calm and collected, brash and daring? What are the most appropriate quests for the character? Who is going to be his best followers? No need to try and tell your audience what every single dialogue choice should be, but give them a guide. On the Tamriel Vault, all these details get tied together with some tasteful elements of presentation, some fitting pictures of character archetypes or screenshots, and usually a graphical representation of the special and perks. Putting that together is one of my favorite parts. And all of this, once done, makes a build. Now obviously builds can be much simpler than that, or much more complex. This process is just what has come to be what I think of when I hear the term character build, and this is something I plan to do in Fallout 4. As long as each character provides a fresh, new experience, I plan to craft a build for each one and share it with you all, together with the gameplay that leads up to it. More importantly, I invite all of you viewers and subscribers to give it a try too. Next week, I'll share with you my plans for my character in Fallout 4, and it's not going to be this agent. So if you've got the time, please give this some thought and share yours with us too. That's our episode for today, everyone. Thanks a ton for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, do like, subscribe, and until next time, keep your powder dry. This is Daft Pirate, signing off.
String up me heart into a hole.